Alrighty, y'all. This is the first Grind Reporter report. This is an Oaken Tower review after 135 hours. I'm going to try to keep this in around 8 to 10 minutes, and I am going to just show you kind of a rating for every part of the game that I thought would be good, bad, and how I experienced the game. Coming from someone who this is like kind of my first auto battler that I actually put a lot of time into. So without further ado, let's get started. Impressions, I did see this on Soda Poppin's stream, and I thought it was pretty cool enough to buy the game and try it out for myself, especially since on my other channel, something that has always done well on Game Bolt Plays through League of Legends arenas was Infinity and breaking the game and stuff like that. And Bokari, the dev of Oaken Tower, definitely seems to like to see people break the game and do insane scaling stuff. So of course that is what we had to try to do. And if you saw my other two videos, I think you would have understood if we did or did not make it happen. If you do want to check out a guide for Oaken Tower, my first video on this channel is a guide. Not only did I talk and put chapters throughout the entire video, I also wrote a written guide with about 16 chapters that you can check out if you would like. It'll help you beat Endless for the first time, or just if there's anything you could learn. Now, I would say this game is simple and easy to understand. I would definitely say you have fun pretty much from the get-go. The most fun I had in the game was probably within my first 10 to 15 hours. Eventually, once you kind of know that dark start of combat stuff is a bit OP, then it feels like you kind of have to focus that. And if you want to climb, you kind of feel pushed into burn and poison. Now, the gameplay loop, so the last one, I give it 8.0 out of 10. Now, the gameplay loop, I also give an 8.0 out of 10. The reason is it is fast and satisfying progression. The combat speed could be improved. It is 2x at the moment. However, I would say even up to like 4 or 5x could be nice, because the late game fights where you're literally just waiting to see who wins is at least 100 seconds. And then obviously if it's 2x, then it's 50 seconds, but that's still a decently long time when, you know, there's literally nothing you can do, right? It's an auto battler. So once you're in the fight, you should be able to fast forward almost all the way if that's something that the dev could make happen, or like a slider or something would be nice. Now, I would say it definitely feels very cool to improve on your previous run. And when I was doing endless attempts, when I was able to face a previous version of myself and beat it, it was quite cool. I enjoyed seeing my previous run and kind of matching up. If it's possible to keep the build code and have it kind of show the progress throughout the game. I don't know how any of this stuff works back end. I'm not a dev, but if you're able to keep, the build code, I wonder if you could show kind of benchmarks like day 1, 25, 50, 75, 100, instead of just the final version, just so people can kind of see how that person scaled their early game would be really cool. However, of course, big numbers go crazy, in my opinion, and seeing quadrillions of damage or shielding is always a fun time. Now, I will say the other part of this, I would recommend going forward that there is a scientific notation or kind of like a simplified version. It would be nice to see when I'm in a fight, says, 200T versus 10T, right? That way I know I'm going to win the fight. It's not just, numbers going up and down and going crazy. That way I can actually see who has more shielding going into it. And it might be better for viewers of the content to kind of see who's going to win. Now, build variety and creativity. This, I kind of touched on this already. This is probably one of my lower ratings. I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. The reason is, early game, when you're just learning all the packs and perks and stuff, it's fun. But I would say that if you're not playing burn or poison, it is pretty rough to climb as fast as possible. I would say there's strong long-term potential for this game, especially when you have a goal. Like, I wanted to beat day 100, and it took me 30 hours or something, or 40 hours of just kind of watching other people do it and looking on Reddit and trying different strats and getting through the early game and finding the right stuff. That stuff made me want to keep playing, right? However, it did burn me out quite a bit. Once you do reach your goal, I would say that, kind of that feeling goes away, and then you're like, holy cow, I just spent 40 hours on an auto battler. So do with that what you might. I still put 135 hours into this game in a month, so I would say that it is definitely a good game. However, for replayability, I would put 7.0. One thing I would say for dev in this part is for endless mode, the strongest build ever created is what people face on number 100, or, kind of an incentive rating wise to get your build to 100. If you can get to 100 in endless, you should get more than 15 points in ranked. So that's just my opinion. Maybe it actually goes higher the more you reach. As for me, I pretty much only played endless the whole time I played, which obviously isn't as rewarding if you do want to climb. So I encourage the dev to kind of, and if he wants people to play endless, then maybe kind of incentivize it in terms of rating. That way, if you want to climb and you're better at scaling builds or kind of economy early game strategies, you should be rewarded by being able to get to day 30 and getting 50 points or whatever. I don't know necessarily the balancing of it, but that's my opinion. Now, difficulty and learning curve, I would say 8.5 out of 10. 8.5 meaning not difficulty, just meaning how easy it is to learn. I would say it's pretty, if you wanted to just kind of have a decent run, you pretty much go whatever they show you. You see all flame stuff, just go a full flame build, and that should be able to get you to your 10 trophies. Now, when it comes to difficulty and learning curve, I give it an 8.5 out of 10, not because it's hard, because it's actually easy to understand. Quickly figure out what beats what. And so basically, as soon as you load in and you see the opponent's stuff, you kind of know if you're going to win or lose. One other thing I would say is if you want to learn the stuff, it might be good to do kind of a run focusing on one archetype, like all poison, all elven or all flame or full shielding or something, and just kind of see how it matches up, and that'll help you learn how to beat the things that you destroy compared to the things you don't. I would say it's very simple to enter, way easier in my opinion than learning backpack battles with all the gems and stuff. However, I've heard that game is pretty depth oriented, so maybe that is something that we should bring to the channel. Now, I would say there is a lot of ways to kind of beat other builds. One of the people who has improved the game a ton in terms of meta is Jalapeno, also known as Elma, I think something along the lines, Elma something on Reddit. And then I pinned his comment in my 10 billion first tick video if you want to see what his YouTube channel is. However, I don't know if he has any Oaken Tower public on there. Now, visuals, audio, and feel, I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. I'm not trying to be very harsh. However, I would say it looks better the earlier game you are. As soon as you get into late game fights where everything is multicasting permanently and freaking everything's spamming and everything, I would say is not ideal. It's kind of hard to see what's even going on. You kind of just lose the visual aspect of the game and you're kind of just waiting for the time. Now, if this wouldn't necessarily be a problem if the timer was faster. However, since you do have to wait there for 50 seconds, you kind of just watch, blah, you know what I mean? So that's why I put it like that. And combat clarity, could go up. However, with how much multicasting there is, it might be easier to just make it go faster or give the option of it going faster. However, I did do some runs on the epilepsy friendly version, and I actually enjoyed that a bit more. However, the numbers are lighter, which I wasn't as big of a fan of because it's kind of hard to see when you're watching on your phone or something in a video, right? So performance and polish, impressive scaling systems. I actually like the scaling a lot in this game. I think it has a ton of potential. I would say one thing that I originally liked about this game and was really hoping for was mods, similar to, let's say, Slay the Spire, something like that, allowing the community to kind of create their own perks and packs and stuff like Balatro and stuff like that would actually be really cool. And I think it would add a lot of content and maybe even viewership to the game, as the community could make what the community wants and they could play it. Now, I don't know as a dev how that would work. However, that is something that I really think could help the game grow. Now, I will say the quality of life features that are needed is, of course, a slider for speed. I have mentioned it a couple times. However, I think it is very, very important. Coming from an endless player who almost always presses that endless button and sees how far I can possibly move this run. And I would say interactions like the potions when you have a lot of candles, one of the best strategies in the game if you can right click and not crash your computer. But also, it's kind of annoying to have to sell all of your potion belts in order to even click one potion with fear of the game crashing. Now, I had never had the game actually crash, which is amazing. However, it did freeze for multiple hours for just right-clicking one stack of potions. Granted, that was like a world record level stack, but you know, hey man, maybe a cap would be better than, someone kind of pushing the game to its limits and then having the game just kind of corrupt, let's say. So 6.5 out of 10 for that. Now, value for price, I would say this game is going to go, it's at 7.0, and that's within a month of a release. I would say if the updates keep being as great as they are, this will only go up for sure. I would say if you like scaling games, this would be even higher than a 7 out of 10. I would definitely buy it again, knowing what I know now. And I would say, as long as the dev keeps doing a good job, this game will only go up, hopefully in players and in value. In my final verdict, I kind of just took all of the things and averaged it out, and that becomes a 7.3 out of 10. Now, I will say it is highly addictive. I really enjoyed it, and I will definitely check out updates in the future. This doesn't mean that I'm done with content on this channel for Oaken Tower, as I do have a lot already filmed and a lot of ideas, and I just like the community. Everyone seems pretty cool in there. If Bokari does want to see some more Grind Reporter Oaken Tower videos, and you are seeing this, leave a comment. Let me know that you are enjoying me leaving my mark on the community, or at least that's what I'm hoping that I am doing. Especially with that guide, hopefully that helps some people get their 100-day goal completed. And I would say it has excellent scaling systems. The quality of life imbalance would be a little bit better. However, that's what comes with time, and I can only imagine how amazing this game will be in the future. So definitely a ton of potential. I would say I'm going to try to be as unbiased as I can in these reviews. That way, when you watch a Grind Reporter review, the Grind Report, you will be able to see, is this game worth playing? Now, that is my thoughts. Let me know what you think of this game in the comment section below. A very great game, and I do recommend that you try it out, buy the game, support the dev, and join the community, as they are pretty small for now. However, it is a very engaging community, and everybody seems to know everybody, which is pretty cool. When I did do the first Endless 100 run, I knew most of the people that I was fighting in the late game, which to me actually felt amazing to kind of feel like I was part of the community and facing other people's builds that I have seen videos of. So that's all my thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below. Please, if you're enjoying my content, like, comment, subscribe. That way I know you're enjoying, and I can keep leveling up, keep improving this channel and my videos in the future. Thanks again for watching. The grind never stops. I'll see you next time with the Grind Report. Grind Reporter signing out.